Justice Department has released some previously unseen Jeffrey Epstein files that include allegations against President Donald Trump.
The documents include summaries of FBI interviews from 2019 with a woman who accused the president and Epstein.
Jeffrey Epstein started his targeted grooming and manipulation of me as a child when I was in New York City for a school trip.
The president has consistently denied any wrongdoing. We should note that the inclusion of interviews in the Epstein files is not necessarily evidence of wrongdoing.
An Epstein victim was found dead in her home just days after new DOJ files were released exposing disturbing allegations about what Donald Trump allegedly did to her when she was a child. And the suicide note she left behind? It says everything about why victims stay silent and what happens when they finally speak up. The DOJ released these files earlier this month. Thousands of pages of FBI interviews, testimonies from victims who came forward years ago. And buried in those documents were detailed allegations against Trump involving a victim who was between 13 and 15 years old at the time. Days after those files went public, this victim was found dead, apparent suicide, and the note she left made it clear she'd been carrying the weight of what happened to her for decades, carrying it alone, with no justice, no accountability, just threats and silence. The files released this month contain FBI interview transcripts from a victim who came forward in 2019. She sat through 4 separate interviews with federal agents, told them everything, gave details about what allegedly happened to her when she was just a teenager in the 1980s. According to the documents, she described being at one of Epstein's properties, being introduced to Trump, being alone with him, and what happened next was a violent against a child. The files detail how Trump allegedly forced her head toward his genitals, how she bit him in self-defense, how he responded by punching her in the head and kicking her out. She was a teenager. He was a powerful businessman. And according to her testimony, that's what he did.
She alleges that Epstein brought her to meet Trump sometime between when she was age 13 and 15. She details in very graphic terms Trump's alleged against her and how she fought back.
But the assault wasn't the end of it. The files reveal that this victim's mother was allegedly blackmailed by Epstein, that the family received threats for years, that speaking up came with consequences that followed them for decades. She told FBI agents about those threats, about how Epstein's network made sure she understood what would happen if she ever told anyone, about how that fear kept her silent for years, even after Epstein was first convicted, even after he was arrested again, even after he died. In 2019, after Epstein's arrest and death, this victim decided to come forward, sat down with FBI agents, told them everything she'd been carrying, gave them names, dates, details, believed that finally there might be justice. The FBI conducted 4 interviews with her, each one documented in the files that just got released. And you can see her hope fading with each interview because the agents kept telling her the same thing. Statute of limitations. Too much time has passed. Nothing can be done criminally. In her 4th and final FBI interview, she asked, what's the point? If nothing can be done legally, why is she reliving this trauma? Why is she giving details about the worst thing that ever happened to her if nobody's going to be held accountable?
During the last interview with the accuser, the FBI asked if she would be comfortable sharing more about her contacts with Trump. She said at the time that she didn't know what the point would be when there was a strong possibility nothing could be done about it, and it's unclear, Jeff, if there was any additional follow-up after that last interview.
The agents didn't have an answer. They documented her testimony, filed their reports, and nothing happened. No charges against Trump, no criminal case. Just documents sitting in a file waiting to be released years later after she's already given up hope. She tried the civil route too, filed a lawsuit, fought for acknowledgement and compensation, but she was deemed ineligible for the Epstein Victims Compensation Program. The very program designed to help people like her said no. Eventually, she accepted a settlement from Epstein's estate, voluntarily dismissed her lawsuit in 2021, took money in exchange for silence. Because what else was she supposed to do? The justice system failed her, the compensation program rejected her, and the man she accused of her became president. Then March 2026, the DOJ releases these files, all 4 FBI interviews, every detail she gave them, every allegation, every description of what allegedly happened to her as a child. All of it public now.
Documents are known as 302 files. They're summaries of 3 interviews the FBI conducted with this accuser.
She didn't choose this. She gave those interviews in 2019, believing they were confidential. believing she was helping an investigation, not knowing that years later, her testimony would be released publicly for the entire world to read. Her name was redacted. The documents call her Jane Doe. But people in her life know who she is. Her community knows. And now everyone knows the details of her trauma whether she wanted them to or not. The files expose Trump, detail the allegations against him, but they also expose this victim, strip away her privacy, force her to relive everything publicly. And Trump's response? Complete denial. White House called the allegations completely baseless, said they're politically motivated attacks, dismissed her testimony as lies without ever addressing the specific details she gave to FBI agents. Days after those files went public, this victim was found dead in her home, apparent suicide, and investigators found a note. The note talked about carrying this burden for decades, about coming forward and nothing changing, about watching the man she accused become more powerful while she was denied justice, about the files being released without her consent and having to see her trauma discussed publicly all over again. She wrote about the threats that never stopped, about looking over her shoulder for years, about Epstein's network making sure she knew they were watching, and about how even after Epstein died, the fear didn't go away. Being deemed ineligible for the compensation program, being told the statute of limitations meant no criminal charges, being forced to accept a settlement and sign away her voice, and then having her voice taken anyway when the DOJ released those files. She'd done everything she was supposed to do, came forward, cooperated with FBI, gave detailed testimony, and what did it get her? No justice, no protection, just public exposure and continued threats. Trump denies everything, has resources to fight any allegation, has the power to dismiss her as a liar. She had nothing, just her testimony, just her truth, and it wasn't enough. This victim is dead. Her suicide note is evidence of what happens when the justice system fails survivors, when powerful men face no consequences, when victims are told their trauma has an expiration date. The DOJ files are still out there. Her testimony is still public. Trump's denials are still the official response, and nothing has changed. No charges filed, no accountability, just another victim silenced permanently. How many other victims are carrying this same burden? How many others came forward only to be told sorry? Too late, statute of limitations. How many others are watching this victim's death and thinking they were right to stay silent? The files expose Trump's alleged actions, but they also expose the system that protected him. The same system that failed this victim when she needed it most. Even with the files there, the allegations documented, the victim dead. Trump is still denying everything while the justice system that failed her moves on to the next case.